I stepped out of the car, my shoes crunching against the cracked pavement of Blackwood's empty main street. The town looked like something out of an old, forgotten photograph, faded, worn, and completely lifeless. Buildings stood with peeling paint and broken windows, their shadows stretching long in the dim evening light. The air smelled damp, mixed with the faint, sour scent of decay. I swallowed hard, already feeling the weight of this place settle in my chest. I wasn't here by choice, not really. As a psychologist, I spent years helping other people sort through their pain. But after everything that happened, I couldn't even face my own reflection. Losing Claire in that crash shattered me. Grief stuck to me like a second skin, heavy and suffocating. My colleagues told me I needed a break, time away from the memories. So here I was, in a town where the silence felt just as broken as I was. Jack, the driver who brought me here, hauled my bags out of the trunk. He was an older guy, rough around the edges but friendly enough. He eyed the rundown buildings and let out a low whistle. "You sure this is where you want to be, Doc?" he asked, rubbing the back of his neck. Not exactly the warmest welcome. I forced a small smile. "I'll be fine, Jack. I need the quiet." He didn't look convinced, but he gave me a nod before getting back in his car. As he drove off, I stood alone, the silence pressing in like a thick fog. The warm summer air should have been comforting, but instead it made my skin prickle. The trees surrounding the town loomed overhead, their branches tangled together like bony fingers reaching toward the sky. Taking a deep breath, I turned to face my new home, a towering, rusted old Victorian house. The place was massive, its once grand design now crumbling with age. The windows were dark and empty, like hollow eyes staring straight through me. A shiver ran down my spine, but I shook it off and stepped forward. The front door groaned as I pushed it open, revealing the stale, dust-filled air inside. The scent of rot was stronger here, thick enough to make me cough. Cobwebs clung to the chandeliers, and the wooden floorboards let out soft creaks under my feet. The whole house felt off, like it had been waiting for someone. As I wandered through the dimly lit halls, an unsettling feeling crept up my spine. It started as a tiny prickle at the back of my neck, then grew into something heavier, something I couldn't ignore. It felt like I was being watched. At first, I brushed it off. Just my imagination, right? But the feeling wouldn't go away. Every step I took echoed through the house, and with each creak, I swore I could hear something just behind me. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. A shadow, dark, shapeless, moving along the edge of my vision. My breath caught in my throat. I spun around, but there was nothing there. Just the empty hallway stretching in front of me. The lights flickered once, then again, and then darkness. My heart pounded. The silence around me wasn't empty anymore. It was full of something unseen, something waiting. And for the first time since I arrived, I knew. I wasn't alone in Blackwood. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers shaking as I tried to turn on the flashlight. The darkness around me felt suffocating, thick with the smell of damp wood and decay. My breath came in quick, uneven gasps, and no matter how much I told myself to move, my feet wouldn't budge. The house was silent, too silent. Each cautious step I took made the floorboards groan beneath me, the sound stretching down the empty halls like a warning. And then that feeling hit me again, the prickling sensation at the back of my neck, the unmistakable weight of unseen eyes watching my every move. A whisper, software raspy, right by my ear. "Welcome home, James." I froze. My stomach twisted. The words weren't loud, but they echoed off the walls, wrapping around me like a cold breath. I spun around, my phone's light slicing through the darkness. No one was there. Nothing but dust and empty space. But the voice, it hadn't come from a person. It had come from the house itself. Swallowing my fear, I forced myself to move forward. I had to understand what was happening here. My phone's dim glow threw long, eerie shadows on the peeling wallpaper as I stepped into a room that looked untouched for decades. Dust coated the furniture like a thick layer of snow, and cobwebs stretched from the ceiling like ghostly fingers. Then I saw it, a portrait hanging on the far wall, a family frozen in time. Their expressions were solemn, their dark eyes staring forward. But something wasn't right. The longer I looked, the more the shadows around them seemed to shift, stretching, twisting, moving on their own. My skin prickled with unease. These weren't just ordinary shadows. They were alive. The whisper returned, louder this time, urgent and insistent. "Find the key, James. Unlock the secrets." My heart pounded as I realized the voice was coming from the portrait itself. The family's eyes followed me as I stepped closer, their expressions almost expectant. This house wasn't just old. It wasn't just haunted. It was waiting for me. And I had just stepped into something far worse than I could have ever imagined. My eyes stayed locked on the portrait, my mind racing. Who were these people? What were they hiding behind those frozen, almost knowing smiles? The whispers seemed to slither through the darkness, urging me to dig deeper, to uncover the truth buried within these walls. As I turned to leave, something caught my eye. A small, nearly invisible compartment behind the frame. My fingers trembled as I pried it open, revealing a dust-covered journal. The name scrawled inside sent a chill down my spine. Elizabeth. Flipping through the brittle pages, I found entries that spoke of something beyond reality. An unseen realm where shadows weren't just empty spaces, but living, breathing entities. They moved, they whispered, and worst of all, they watched. Elizabeth wrote of a presence lurking within the darkness, something ancient and hungry. It wanted more than just fear. It craved souls. The journal detailed strange rituals, cryptic warnings, and a darkness waiting patiently to be set free. Then I reached the final entry. Elizabeth was gone. No explanation, no goodbyes, just an abrupt end, as if the shadows had swallowed her whole. But they hadn't forgotten. They were still here, waiting. And now they had turned their attention to me. A cold shiver ran through me as my vision blurred. My surroundings twisted, the walls melting into an endless black void. Suddenly, I wasn't in the house anymore. I was somewhere else, somewhere wrong. A realm of pure darkness stretched around me, shifting like a living thing. The shadows curled and coiled, moving with purpose, watching me from the edges of my vision. And then I saw it, a figure wrapped in shadows, standing just ahead. It radiated cold, like a winter breeze cutting through bare skin. My breath hitched as an overwhelming sense of dread filled my chest. Then it spoke. "Welcome, James. We've been waiting for you." Its voice was ancient, hollow, carrying the weight of countless stolen souls. "You have something that belongs to us, something that will set us free." I tried to move, to run, but my body refused to obey. The figure reached out, a hand made of pure darkness grazing my skin. The moment it touched me, my vision shattered into nothingness. Then, blackness. I woke up gasping. My room, my bed, the journal still clutched tightly in my hands. But something had changed. The shadows in the room weren't still. They twisted, stretched, breathed. And the whispers. They were louder now, clearer. I knew without a doubt that I had crossed a line. I had stepped into a world where shadows reigned, where they had waited for someone like me. And now, they would never let me go. I tried to shake off the creeping unease, telling myself it was just my imagination. But the shadows around me moved, shifting, twisting, almost like they were alive. No matter where I went, I felt it. A presence, something unseen, watching. At first, I ignored it. I went through my days trying to convince myself it was just stress, exhaustion. But then things started happening. Objects weren't where I had left them. Whispers echoed from the walls, coming from nowhere and everywhere all at once. I was losing sleep, losing my grip on reality. This house, this town, it was a waking nightmare. And then came the visions. They hit like flashes of lightning, burning themselves into my mind. I saw myself trapped in endless darkness, my body swallowed by writhing shadows. I felt my soul being pulled apart, my very existence consumed by the presence lurking around me. I needed answers. Desperate, I turned to the journal, flipping through Elizabeth's entries, searching for something, anything, that could explain what was happening to me. That's when I found it. The presence wasn't just a ghost or a trick of the mind. It was ancient, something awakened long ago through human rituals. A being of pure darkness, feeding on souls, growing stronger with each victim it claimed. The air in the room thickened as I read. I could feel it growing stronger, as if it knew I had uncovered its secret. I had to leave. Now I threw clothes into my bag, heart pounding, hands shaking. But as I turned toward the door, I realized I wasn't alone. The shadows had gathered. They stretched across the walls, shifting, blocking every way out. The room grew impossibly dark, swallowing the last slivers of light. I was trapped. I tried to run. My legs refused to move. The air itself seemed to push against me, forcing me to stay. The whispers swelled, no longer distant, no longer subtle. They spoke in voices layered upon voices, all merging into a single overwhelming command. Stay. Then the presence began to take shape. Darkness swirled before me, twisting into a figure, towering and faceless. But it wasn't alone. I saw them. Shadowy figures, barely human, their grins stretched too wide, their hollow eyes locked onto me. They surrounded me, pressing in closer, their silent laughter filling the space between the whispers. And then it spoke. It is time. The words carried a bone-deep chill, slicing through my very soul. Time for the ritual. Time to fulfill your purpose. I fought to resist, to move, to scream, but my body no longer belonged to me. The shadows dragged me forward, deeper into the darkness, deeper into it. Symbols glowed on the walls, strange ancient markings pulsing like open wounds. The presence began to chant, its voice rising, filling my head until it was all I could hear. Then the ritual began. A pain unlike anything I had ever known tore through me. My soul unraveled, ripped apart, piece by piece. The darkness consumed me, devouring everything I was. I tried to fight. I lost. My mind was in pieces, my soul torn apart by the ritual. I was falling, pulled, down into the abyss, deeper and deeper into the heart of the shadows realm. The presence loomed over me, its darkness pressing in, suffocating, unrelenting. As I sank, flashes of the past flickered before my eyes. Elizabeth. She was here, trapped in the shadows just like me. And she wasn't alone. There were others. Countless souls lost to the darkness, their faces twisted in silent agony. Each one had been consumed, devoured by the presence. The air grew heavier, thick with something indescribable. My thoughts blurred, my memories unraveled. I could feel my identity slipping away, dissolving into the endless void. I was no longer me. I was becoming part of it. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a tiny ember still burned. A flicker of resistance. I refused to disappear. I had to fight. But the presence was strong, overwhelming. It pulled me closer, dragging me toward the source of its power, toward the endless, consuming darkness at the heart of this realm. I was dragged before its throne. A massive, shifting monolith of shadows loomed over me, its form pulsing like a living thing. The air stank of rot and something older, something wrong. The whispers swarmed around me, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once, echoing through my bones. Then it appeared. The presence took shape before me, its darkness twisting, coiling into something almost human. Almost. And then I saw its face. My breath caught in my throat. It was impossible. A void of pure malice, of hunger. No features, yet I knew it was looking at me, seeing me, claiming me. "So," it murmured, its voice like the wind howling through a graveyard. "You are the one." The words slithered through my mind, cold and unforgiving. The one who thinks they can defy me. I tried to speak, but my voice was barely a whisper. "I won't let you consume me." The words felt weak, empty. The presence laughed, a terrible sound that shook the very fabric of this place. "You are already mine." The darkness surged forward, wrapping around me, sinking into what was left of my shattered soul. I screamed, and then nothing, just the shadows, just the endless, consuming dark.